Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate you, we inspire you. And today we're going to educate you. We have a special gift for you today. This guest, I'll tell you what, I had the pleasure of meeting him at an event in Atlanta, Georgia. Just loved his heart, loved his energy, loved what he was about. He's going to bring a lot of value. So I want you to do yourself a favor right now. Get out your pen, get out your paper, because when you take notes, you retain over 50% of the information. Yes. So get out your pen. Come on, get out your paper, get uncomfortable. Write this information down because it's going to bless you in the long run, and you're going to come back and review your notes. So right now, let's welcome to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, Billy the Kid. Billy, my brother, how you doing?
Good, bro. How you doing, man? I'm excited. I've been looking forward to doing this with you, man. We got one already for my podcast, so now it's time to do the opposite, and let's keep this going, bro.
Yeah, brother. Well, I know the amazing person you are. Do me a favor, Billy. Introduce yourself to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, please.
Yeah, so my real name is Billy. I go by Billy the Kid as basically just the branding. I do some music. That's kind of how I got my entrepreneurship journey started. But if I back up, I was actually born in El Salvador. So I'm originally from El Salvador. I came to the US 9, 10 years old. My mom actually left us back at home for 3 years prior to that. So around 6 years old, she left to pursue the American dream. She came back 3 years later, and we ended up in California, and now I'm in Nebraska. And I know it's like a quick summary. There's a lot of life that happened there, a lot of traumas, a lot of crazy stuff, but it molded me to where I am now. And just as simple as like no running water, no electricity in El Salvador, right? So I always like to say I started from negative 100, not 100 or not at zero, at negative 100, and now I'm about 70%.
And I love that. And I can relate with that story because people don't realize how good we have it here in America. And I can say
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger, Billy, by what you said, no running water, no electricity. When my mom passed away and I went to go live with my dad and him and his girlfriend at the time, the house we lived in didn't have a water heater. It was out in the rancho, right? It was out in the country in a small town called Martindale. It was probably about 7, 8 miles from San Marcos, Texas, which is about an hour from San Antonio. And no water heater. And people say, like, man, I remember, bro, we'd have to heat up the water in one of those like metal containers on the stove, a gas stove. And it was cold, man. I mean, you're talking about you take that
Mm-hmm.
hot water for granted, man. And this was a time,
Yeah,
and that's at the house was just an older house. So you talk about you're boiling water in a sink that
like
has
literally.
frozen ice in it. Yeah, just because that's how cold
Yeah,
it wasn't insulated. So when you say
yeah.
that,
And
you just triggered a memory, like, man, wow, like I can relate to some of that.
you mentioned even the stove, bro, and it's crazy because looking back, I wrote about it on my book as well, that my mom had to start like a camp like fire to even cook for us back then, and literally from wood. Just so where I'm from is called Los Ranchos, which just translates to the ranches. It's literally a village, we'll call it, a beautiful village. I went back finally 2 years ago, and I actually did a vlog, and man, I cried as soon as I stepped to that house where my grandma raised us, and rest in peace now. But I had the God bless me to see her one more time before her passing, and yeah, this was a couple years ago, and it's crazy. I never left that village, we'll call it, and just going out to El Salvador in general. Just there's so many beautiful places out there. The president is doing such an amazing job now. Literally, you feel safe, beautiful food, I took my girls with me. It's just a beautiful place, and I never knew that because guess what? I was in that box, we'll call it, and I like to call it box, which is the comfort zone, right? At that time, it wasn't by choice because I was a kid, but there's anybody out there listening, you think of it that way. Whenever, wherever area you are in your life, even to this day, Daniel, I practice that. I'm like, okay, what box am I in right now that I need to break through, right? And at that time it was the village. Then you move on, and maybe it's your environment. You know, during my teenage years, I was hanging out with the wrong group of guys, right? Or people in general. And so that was my box. That's all I knew. So it's like you have to break that box in order for you to level up to the next level in life. And again, it's as simple as that village. It's as simple as wherever you're at now. Who are you hanging around with? What are you doing, right? Like what businesses are you running and all that? So
I love
break that.
when you're saying that, this is what comes to mind. New environments give you new growth. New environments give you new
Mm-hmm.
experiences. So write that down, ladies and gentlemen. Think about what Billy's saying. What box? Write that question down for yourself right now. What box are you putting yourself into? What box are you putting yourself into in your life, in your business, in your relationships? Maybe you have trust issues and you don't trust anybody, and you keep putting yourself in that box of mistrust, and you wonder why your life is not going where you wanted to go. You wonder why your business sucks. Your business isn't growing because you're not trusting anybody. So you're trying to do it by yourself. Are you putting yourself in that box? So think about that.
Love it.
And I love what you're saying, Billy, because I really thought about that, right? I thought about that earlier today is new environments give you new experiences. Growth comes from new environments. And what do I mean by that? A good example, I was talking to one of my clients, and I said, man, when I first bought my Corvette, I went to this dealership, and it's a very high line used car dealership, nice cars, right? They have Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces and everything. And we were looking for a car for my wife. And when I first walked in there, it's like they ask you if you want something to drink. I'm like, no, like you don't want to bother nobody because you kind of sense like just leave me alone, right? I'm kind of just figuring out where I'm at, and that was me. And we went yesterday, and the guy goes, "Hey, sir, do you want something to drink?" Yeah, man, give me a water for sure, because now I know I belong there. Now I know
Mm.
that right, but the energy, the frequency, the vibration is so much higher than what somebody's used to that sometimes you don't feel you belong around this environment, because right, it is definitely a higher environment. Talk to us about that. How did you experience that coming from El Salvador, coming into America, and really, what was the adjustment that you had to make for yourself to embrace the new environment that you were in, Billy?
Yeah, and you know, I love that. That was a great example, Daniel. It's literally what I'm talking about, that box. And so me living the village to come to America at 9, 10 years old was me getting uncomfortable at that time, right? I mean, and you know, God forbid, nothing, like thank God nothing happened to us. But there's a lot of people that die on that because you're literally throwing yourself out in the jungle, we'll call it, for 30 days, 45 days of walking and being at play. But you know what? It paid off, right? Like now looking back, it's like it was all worth it. But I feel like in anything that you do in life, that's what you have to look at. Matter of fact, again, it doesn't get any easier, guys. Like the more you level up, like right now, I have decisions on my desk that I'm literally like, okay, what do I do? And you know, looking through some of my journals from the past, I was just doing that this morning. It's so crazy to see what I was fearing 3 years ago, you know, and then all of a sudden that fear, I'm gonna give you this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the like the buffalo mindset, right? Like there's cows and buffaloes. The cows, whenever there's a storm coming, and those of you who are watching, whenever the storm is coming, the cows look at the storm and they run away from that storm. Buffaloes, on the other hand, they see that storm and they actually run against it and they cross it and get it over with. And that is literally what we have to do in life, guys. Every decision that you guys have going on, and that's how I leveled up in every decision. It's like, okay, let me face this storm, get it over with, so I can go on to the next one. That's another thing. People think that the biggest problem that people have is not wanting any problems, and unfortunately, they forget that problems is what makes us grow. That's the problems is what gets us out of that comfort zone, right? That because comfortable guys, you could sit on the couch and watch Netflix, but I guarantee you, I can guess how much you have in your bank account if you do that. Otherwise, if you leave that comfort zone, problems are going to come. I promise you, but that is growth. How do we handle each problem? Literally, Daniel, I've said this before. Like I'll sit around sometimes and I'm like, man, why is my phone not ringing with problems? Like, what's going on? Let's let's go.
Well, I don't do that. I gotta admit, I don't do that. But I understand. I definitely don't go looking for them. But I definitely understand what you're saying, and I love that analogy. I didn't know that cows run from the storm, and buffaloes run towards them and cross the path to get it over with. Which one are you, ladies and gentlemen? Which one are you? Are you that
Mm.
cow, Or are you that buffalo that's going to go towards that storm today from this day forward? And like Billy said, you can't grow without problems. And maybe you're saying, well, who the heck's Billy the Kid? Well, his brand is $1 million hustle. He has some success in business. He knows what he's talking about. And maybe you don't even see the word $1 million doesn't even register with you because it's so far away from you because you think so small, you think in shortage.
Wow. I love that, Daniel.
How did
That,
you I'm
wow.
talking about the $1 million hustle? How did you come up with that brand, man? How did you come up with that?
Yeah. So it's funny. I'll be honest with you. Now that, I'm 35 years old, I know I'm that at that age where I get, oh, you're so young. And then I also get, oh, wow, you're older now. Right. But and I bring that up to say that thank God I'm at a level now where we're able, just like Daniel right now, it's 10 a.m., 10:20 right now, and we're doing what we love, right? Like we're just here spitting game. We're not at a job at the 9 to 5 race, right? And I say that because the word hustle is something that I fell in love with. And those of you who are listening, if you don't hustle, you're not gonna get anywhere. I promise you that. Again, just sit on your couch, watch Netflix if that's what if you're against the word hustle. Now it's funny because you get to a level, Daniel, where that word and that culture, we'll call it the hustle culture, is something that I'm against nowadays. And what I mean by that is you don't have to kill yourself anymore. But in order for you to get to that level, you have to hustle. Now, don't get me wrong, right? Like I'm still hustling, but it's a different level of hustling. Now,
I
I
love what
always
you're saying.
say,
I love what you're saying because I have a well, when you hear that, people hear the word hustle, they think you got to kill yourself, what you said, and I don't agree with that.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I like so give us just for clarification, what's your definition of hustle, just for a point of context.
Yeah, hustle to me means hard work. It means inspiration. Like I hustle to inspire others. That's literally what I'm doing. So to me, it's just it does mean hard work. But here's the thing: you have to hustle in order for you to acquire some type of riches. And once you get some type of riches, then it's time to work smart, right? By working smart, I mean now you can level up maybe in your own company that made you rich, right? Like become an owner instead of being there every day. If you start a painting company, don't sit there and paint. Like actually get out of that painting job and actually run the company as an owner, right? So now you're hustling smarter, and once you hustle smarter, guys, then that's when you build an empire. And thank God that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm kind of like in that 1 foot in, 1 foot out level of just building to that next level. And that is I just gave you the equation to build wealth, which is very important. Those of you who want to build wealth, big difference between rich and wealth. What's that saying? Rich is loud and wealth is
Quiet.
yeah, there you go, quiet. So
Quiet.
and now I feel like in order for me to explain the $1 million hustle, I had to get that out of the way. Now the funny thing, Daniel, is that when people see the $1 million hustle, they think money right away, right? Duh. But it's actually not about money. So those of you who are listening, you have to become the $1 million. I was talking to Carlos Reyes about a week ago. We just did a podcast. It's on the $1 million hustle, and we were just talking about how you have to become the 7-figure person before you can acquire the seven figures, right? And so that's what the $1 million hustle is. What does it take for you to get to that $1 million mark? And when I say that, it means you have to change. You have to get out of that comfort zone. You have to become a better businessman, a better father, like all those things, guys, is what I went through to get to that point in life, right? And so I'm literally just like this hat I have on, the word hustle, like I'm doing this, I'm hustling to inspire others because I know it's possible coming from that village, and so you can do it too. And so that's kind of what it means is what's the person that you need to become to get to that level. So obviously we measure a lot by money, so that's definitely one big way to measure the person you are becoming. And honestly, guys, there's people that will get to that point without working on themselves and becoming a better person. But there's a lot of people that lose it all once you get to that point because your mindset is not ready. Look at athletes, for example. There's so
Yeah.
many athletes that lose it all, right? Like they gain that $10
Evander
million
Holyfield. I mean, I love Evander
contract.
Holyfield. Him and Mike Tyson had some great boxing matches, but
Yeah,
he lost
yeah,
it. He had
and
horses and ranches, and it
yep,
breaks your heart. But they don't have the
yep,
capacity, and then the traumas, they don't deal with that. The past
exactly.
hurts, the
Boom.
traumas, and they self-sabotage themselves, and just
Yeah,
I think the biggest mistake. I want your input on this because we're talking about a great subject. Because I just had this conversation on another show yesterday with this. I was on a guest, and I was like, "What people don't understand is this: is people say something because everybody else says it, right? People say the word hustle because everybody else says hustle. As an
right.
example, everybody says, "Well, money makes you more of who you are," because everybody says that. No, how the hell do you know what money does if you've never had money? Let me say it again. How the hell do you know what money does if you don't have money? And what I mean by that
Yeah.
is people say that like, oh yeah, like you don't know because the reason I say that is that the truth is right. The facts are this is that over 90% of Americans don't even have $100,000 in their savings account. So if the average
Mm.
American doesn't 90% don't even have $100,000 in their savings account, how can they say what the vibration frequency is at a quarter million, at half a million, much less
Yes.
Billy, at a million? How can they say that if they've never experienced this? So, because I
Hmm.
can tell you, as I grew and our savings account grew and our business grew, I had to change, right? I had to change my perspective and how I saw this because I had to protect my heart pretty much every week. Because without
Mm.
wanting to, you
Hmm.
start to be right with, and this is just it's human nature, right? It's just the way we're wired. And that's why I need God in my life because as you start to gain a success, you start to get a little bit greedy, or you start to think maybe I'm better than somebody else, and you're not. And you start basing your value on two things. This is what, and I'm just being totally transparent.
Hmm.
You think your value is in your bank account, which it's definitely not, and you think your
Hmm.
worth is in that, is definitely not. And then this is where God always kind of gets me by the head and hits me, right? God, like, open your eyes, come on, like you start trusting in the money instead of God.
Mm.
So my point with
Seriously.
this is that as you continue to acquire wealth, you have to protect your heart. What's your
Hmm.
perspective on that?
Wow, no, that is fire. And here's the thing. One thing that's very important too, guys. Those of you who are listening, even the $1 million hustle, like uh, Daniel just said it, like 250. Like, let's get, you know what? Sadly, let's get you to 50K a year. Like, there's people out there like that. 100K will be a life changing monetary asset for a lot of people out there, and that's what this show is about. Now, it's funny you're mentioning the whole money thing, Daniel, because I actually wrote about it on my book. So the power of being uncomfortable, and there's a whole chapter called "Money Isn't Everything," and I actually have like a 5 minute free sample on YouTube or anywhere. I'm available basically pretty much anywhere, and you know one thing I would like to make it clear that money isn't the most important thing in life, but it does affect everything that is important. And I want you guys to really think about
Ooh,
that.
say that again. Say that again
Be-
slower. That was good. That was good.
money, man, now you're making me nervous. I'm like, man, what did I say now? Money is not the most important thing in life, but it does affect everything that is important. And so I'm going to give you an example. Now, where I'm at, I was able to sit there and say, okay, how can I become a better son? So one of my goals this year, a lot of people, when you're not at that monetary level, you don't even have time to think about these things. Like I sat there and say, okay, not that I'm a bad son, but I'm like, you know what? Thank God has given me my mom to this day, right? Like, what can I? So, one thing I said is, you know what? At least one call or at least one text a week. Not that I wasn't doing it before, but now I'm literally looking at it because I have the time to take a look. Same with my daughters. Matter of fact, later today, I have a schedule with my oldest. We're gonna go grab coffee or a smoothie when she gets off school later. And because it's part of our one-on-ones that I made it a goal this year, is I'm used to having both of them together, both my daughters. So now I'm like, you know what? No, they're in different ages, and I just want to grow each relationship. So how do I do that? Is by doing one-on-ones with them. Let's go grab coffee or whatever, right? Like, let's go eat. And so those are the things you're able to do because of money, guys. Now, money isn't everything. The people that say that are the people that are the ones that don't have money, like Daniel said, and unfortunately that's the harsh truth. I've been there, and to this day I'm humble. Like you mentioned humble, Daniel. That is the biggest asset we have. If you're not humble, you're bound to go down. It's so funny. I see so many cocky people that are to certain levels, right? To the point where, hey, look at my bank account, and it's like, whoa, like you that is and it's funny because the people that do that and looking at the bank account, it's like, huh, right? Like it's not even worth looking at. But those are the people that do that the most, guys. Now, money isn't everything. Sidewalks, for example. We all have sidewalks in the US, right? And people say, well, going for a walk is free, right? Like that money isn't everything. And it's like, no, because you know what? Our taxes paid for that sidewalk that you're walking. So there is some money in there. And also, you taking a walk, like I mentioned on the book, you taking a walk on that sidewalk is actually, you have free time because you already did your hours or whatever it was to be able to afford that time. So whenever people use that, and here's the thing, people correlate money with happiness. Now, I will say it makes you a little more happier, right? Like Daniel, you're going to Puerto Rico tomorrow. I mean, that takes some money, so that'll make you a little happier. But the thing is, I was happy in that village, guys. Happiness comes within. I was happy eating beans and rice in that village, and I'm happy eating beans and rice to this day. But I will say, right, another analogy that I have on
Well,
my
you know
book,
what?
like,
I want to say this because
go
this
ahead.
came up because I had a hold back. I'm gonna be honest. I had a hold back yesterday. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had a hold back yesterday because I want to. We're doing some good points here. Somebody posted on Facebook yesterday. Oh, money doesn't buy happiness. Money isn't everything, right? Success isn't just money and homes, right? Somebody put something like that. I'm like, okay, success isn't money and homes. Success isn't cars. Success is happiness. And I'm thinking like people post these things. I'm like, what the hell you think? Stupid. So what do I mean by that? I'm gonna tell you what I mean. If money doesn't buy happiness, tells a homeless man that doesn't have the money to buy a home that he wants for his family. If money doesn't buy happiness, tells a guy walking in the hot desert sun in Phoenix that has to walk his daughters to school and wishes he could buy a car.
Mm-hmm.
Tells a homeless guy that's hungry that can't afford to buy groceries for their kids, because most kids go hungry during summer because a lot of over 50% of kids eat at school, and that's their only supply. And that's the stupid shit that people talk about that they don't think about
Yeah,
it. Just say it.
exactly. And
Does that make
it's
funny what I'm
funny.
saying? Am I because I know I'm being bold today, but
No,
I'm
you know what? I'm
trying to
gonna
say
give you
shit.
a pa 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 pa.
Here.
There you go. Love it. Let's go. No, and you know, to go along with that, Daniel, you know, it's so funny. Then you hear like the same stupid people that say that, oh, I'd rather ride the bus, right, than be in a nice car. And the cars that I have now, I have a little Benz. I'm like, I'd rather climb a little Benz, man, than, you know, back in the village when I didn't even have a bike. And then in the US, when I first had a bike, riding it in the snow, you just said that. Now here's the thing. It's funny because I rode the bus plenty of times in El Salvador. The least thing you want to do is ride the bus at that time, especially. This was in the 90s. At that time, literally people would just walk in broad daylight and just ask for your stuff. You would just get robbed right there, and not just one by, it was like the whole group, whoever was in the bus. And it's like, is that happiness then, right? Like riding this bus, like people don't see the other side of things. So to me, it's like, yeah, I rode the bus plenty of times, but you know what? I'm a little happier now. So let's not, here's the thing, Daniel. I'm going to end this whole analogy with this is the whole money thing. People are so tied up with the hourly, right? Like, oh, I'm making $15 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever it is. And with me, it's like us recording this, like we're just doing it for the love. Like me writing this book. If I would sit there and say, oh my God, it took me I don't know, 25, 30 hours to write this book in total, or 40 hours, 50 hours, whatever it was. Normal people are already programmed to be like, well, 50 times this is that. If I'm recording a song, the funny thing is, if I'm recording a song, I'm doing it for the love. Matter of fact, if nobody's paying me, I'm paying the engineer, I'm paying the producer. Like, you're investing in yourself when you're doing it that way. And I want you guys to stop with the programming. And all this money thing comes from that, right? Like, why do you go to school then? If it's not about the money, why are you going to school? Why do you leave that job to go to the next one? Because why? Because they're paying you more. So it's like, stop with these excuses. It's the easiest thing to do is not to take accountability. And that's what you're doing by doing that.
Boom, baby. Say it again.
Let's go.
Easiest thing is not to take accountability. I'm telling you, man, I'm loving it.
Yes.
Because we're having a real conversation, because people, they don't know what they don't know. And they don't even know that they don't know with it. Right? They don't know what they don't know, and they don't even know what they don't know, because
that's why we're here, Daniel. That's why we're here to hopefully. Yes. That's why we're here. Hopefully to spread the message that it's like, hey, there's more to life than what you're programmed. It's so funny. I think of I had a family member that, you know, we bought a new blender that you know, and it's funny because to me it's like $100 for a blender instead of the $15 from Walmart, right, that we used to buy. And when they saw it, they were like, I would never buy anything that expensive. And to me, it's like, yeah, but that's the easy route, right? Like, I know it's just a simple blender, but to me, that blender is a trophy. That blender is how I took accountability for myself. And I'm like, you know what? Like, guys, you have to take accountability for every aspect in your life. You get in a car accident. How is that your fault? Look into it. Like, how could you have left earlier? Were you speeding a little bit? Like, if you dig deep, you're able to pinpoint and say, okay, here's where I messed up, so you can grow, right? So you can get to that next level. So take accountability. Once you start taking accountability, your life will change, man. Like, but again,
dramatically it'll change.
Yes. It's just easy to say the easy thing.
On my life, bro. I'm loving this conversation. We're gonna have to do a part 2 on telling you, because
I'm down.
We're talking about life, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Before you have a career, before you have a business, it's life, your life. And your life is based on one huge X factor, and that's you. So if your life stinks, you're the issue. If your business isn't growing, you're the issue. And a great example of that, this guy, I mean, I love helping people. I love helping people, Billy. And I'm glad we're talking about this, because this is coming to the surface right now. Is I'm by God's grace, you know, I've been able to grow our speaking career tremendously, and people call me for tips, and I'm like, yeah, I'll give you it. I mean, I'll give you a tip or two. And this guy this is like the 3rd time he calls me. He goes, man, he sent me an email. I called him, say, hey, man, I said, look, this is what you need to do. Well, I ain't got no money. I'm like, bro, like, every time I talk to you these past 3 years, you say you have no money. I go, when are you going to invest in yourself? Well, you don't understand. I got kids, right? They use their kids as a pawn. I said, let me tell you something, bro. I said, I started my business 5 years ago. My wife had a double mastectomy, breast cancer. Don't you think that was a good excuse not to start? Not only that, my son was a freshman in college. I just had, you're talking about a $20,000 nut. The whole year was $50,000. Was I going to go pull him out because I made a decision to leave the automotive industry? No. I told this guy, dude, everything you say is an excuse. You always say you can't afford it. You're never going to afford it. Well, my kids, dude, don't give me that BS. Because what I said was, shit, well, how am I going to cover this $25,000 for the first semester of college? I went out there and manned up. And so many men out there, they're not manning up. They're letting the excuses, the situations overtake them, instead of really being a man and the leader of their family. And they're allowing these excuses to freaking, it pisses me off.
Man of the family, bro. That's massive.
It pisses me off because they allow their circumstances, and no, like you're saying hustle. Maybe yeah. Maybe you right. This is the thing. Maybe you are a teacher. You made that decision. Take accountability for it. So since you became a teacher, since that's your excuse how you're always broke, why don't you start a side hustle like Billy's saying? Why don't you go out there and do
Mhm.
something on the side? Why don't you start a business from 5 to 9 and see how that grows if you're consistent and you're consistently showing up and hustling every day? Like I love what Billy's saying. But it
Mhm.
makes me pissed off because it's like they're just playing the victim and they don't even see it. And I said, you know what, man? He goes, well, call me and such. I go, I'm not even gonna. I go, don't. I go, you're the one that reached out to me. I go, don't even reach out to me. I said, I don't mean to be ugly, but I'm at the point where I want to help people that want help, man. I'm at the
Mhm.
point, Billy, right now
Mhm.
where I want to help people that want help. If you're not serious, don't waste my time. And I'm not being inconsiderate. I'm
Mhm.
not being a butthead about it. But if you're gonna reach out to me and send me an email or call me and say, hey, what do you think? And I've already given you 2 or 3 nuggets of free advice and some free time. There comes a point where you got to pay to be at the table.
Mm. Love that. And people want to be held by hand, Daniel. That's the thing. It sounds like I've seen that over and over where it's like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's like I unfortunately, and that's where the reality hits where it's like there's only one Daniel Gomez, right? There's only one Billy the Kid. And I think we oftentimes forget that, but and I think it's good to forget that because you're not like full of yourself in a way. But this is kind of where it reminded me of to kind of add on to what you just said, Daniel. There's only one us, so it's like you start your own legacy, right? Like I can help you, like what, but I'm not gonna be able to go do it for you. And that's been my biggest fight, Daniel, is friends, family, because once you discover this whole thing, it's like I used to run to everybody. Hey, like I discovered this big secret, right? Like, hey, there's actually hope out there, guys. Like, read this book or do this or listen to this podcast, right? And nobody wanted to do it, right? Like, honestly, Daniel, I'm to the point where I just don't have friends. Like I literally got to the point where it's like, hey, and not I shouldn't say that because I have a lot of great friends, but the there's certain friends that I've let go that I'm just like, nope, you know what? I'm done with that because, and it's funny because every time I've done that, there's this level that happens where you level up. These people, I like to use the analogy of like a rubber band, right? Like anytime you jump up, they're dragging you back down. And guys, here's the thing, it's bigger than that. Do your kids deserve better, right? Like does your, if you have your parents still, your wife, your husband, like do they deserve better? Than become better, be that person. And you can't do it by hanging
Boom,
around all
baby.
these
I love
people
that.
that let's go.
No,
You
but
can't do it by hanging around the wrong people.
yeah, and I can already hear somebody criticizing that. So what Billy is saying, ladies and gentlemen, is not to spoil your kids. That's not what Billy's saying.
Hmm.
Before
Not at all.
somebody says, I well, no, he's not saying give your kids candy to where they're 50 pounds overweight and 100 pounds overweight. I see a lot of parents do that, right? They throw a
Hmm.
tantrum, and that's not
Hmm.
what he's saying. He's saying if you have the capabilities within your own strength, within your own potential, with God's grace, with God's abilities working through you, to provide a better home, a better community, a better lifestyle, why wouldn't you do it? But he's not talking about
Yes.
spoiling them to where they're fat and overweight, and because I see a lot of that, right? They give them cookies, and
Yeah.
it's not what he's talking about. He's talking about giving
And you
them
know
an
what,
opportunity
Daniel?
in life.
It's so crazy you say that. To my grandma, rest in peace. When my mom left us back in El Salvador for those 2 3 years, 3 years I believe it was, my mom used to almost get mad because my grandma, if I was like, hey, I want a banana, and it was simple, right? Like literally just a banana, and my grandma would say, okay, well, go do this, go sweep outside, go like go do something and then come eat your banana. And that right there stuck with me for the rest of my life, and I do that to my kids now. So prime example, the latest one, my daughter, my oldest, she wanted this $600 headphones. Crazy kids nowadays. But I obviously, and we always tell them, we're like, hey, thank God we could go buy it for you, right? Because here's the thing too, don't program your kids and tell them it's not possible. That's a big thing. Like I can't stand when people use that, like, oh, don't we can't afford it right now, right? Because now you're programming your kid and it's this constant generational thing that happens. So with our kids, we tell them, we're like, hey, we show them our bank accounts. We're very transparent with them so they can see what's real. If we have any cash from a transaction, we'll show it to them. We let them touch it because it's something that it's normal, guys. Like, let's talk money on the table. So the headphone thing, when my daughter came to me, we told her, we're like, hey, as you know, we could go buy it, but what are you doing to earn them? And so what we said was, hey, we'll pay for half if you bring the other half. So guess what? She started babysitting. She did all these different things just in the neighborhood, and she brought the 300. And the funny thing, Daniel, is shout out to my sister-in-law, because she's the one who ended up paying for the other half. But my oldest earned it, right? So now those headphones mean way more to her. It's the analogy, even with my music, since I do hip hop. Like when I used to hustle CDs, I would never give them for free. Now, some people used to tell me, well, you could, you could grow faster or something. But the thing is, if you give somebody a free item, they're just going to toss it. They don't care for it. Right. But I would at least be like, well, how much can you do? Do you have $1? And guess what? That dollar would make them open it and throw it in. So people appreciate more when it's not giving to them. I know I do. I can guarantee you do, Daniel.
Well,
We
I have a saying
appreciate
for
it
that.
more. So let's kids our kids that.
Yeah, I have a
Go
saying.
ahead.
When people pay, they pay attention.
Woo.
When
Love
people
that.
pay, they pay attention.
Writing that one down.
And maybe that's your block right now, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe you're that person, you want everything for free, because the truth is, if you have no skin in the game, you're not going to care. You're not going to people. I see it, right? People that pay for coaching $10,000, man, they're there, they're on time, they're showing up, they're doing it. People that you're like, well, I got to reschedule. I don't. That's why I told that guy, dude, don't, like, no, don't just don't worry about I'll be good. There's another billion people out there, not being sincere, but I'm at the point where our business is doing fantastic, but we want to work with people that really want to change, that really want to impact the world. And I get it. I get it. There's people that can't afford certain things. And believe me, we scholarships and stuff, or we give out partial scholarships depending on the person, right? But I guarantee you, when we give out a scholarship, they do pay something, right? They definitely have some Benjamins in the game. But one thing that my old assistant said is, Daniel, people don't know what you do behind the scenes. People judge you and say stuff like that, and, oh, you overcharge for your events, you do this, but it's the value, right? When you deliver that value, when you deliver $5,000 worth of value for an event, you're allowed to you're allowed to charge $5,000 for an item, because you deliver that value. But if you can't afford it, well, then I'll never forget, there's people that helped me along the way. You know what? You can't do the 5K. Well, what can you do? And they're like, Daniel, I need this. I know that. And then you have the people like the guy from this morning that says, well, I can't afford it. And that's what he says all the time. And then you got somebody else says, you know what? I got 1,000. I can do another 1,000. And let me see what else I can do. And that's the people you want to help. Does that make sense?
Man, fire, bro. And it's so funny, because with me running my own mastermind too, man, we meet every Thursday through Zoom, and it's the same concept. Like, I don't do it for free. There's tons of groups out there, and if you're doing it for free, then I can guarantee you the value that's going to come out of that, right? Because most people aren't going to show up. And I've actually seen that firsthand myself. Like, there's been groups that I've joined and it's free. So then people just don't show up. They don't do what they said they were going to do. And the group that I have, the Get Uncomfortable Mastermind, literally, there's people in there. There's a 20-year-old all the way to, now he's 21, all the way up to a 60-year-old, and everything in between. And we hold each other accountable. If you say you're going to do something, we expect screenshots of what you did and all that. And I could do it for free, but I know that if I do it for free, it's not going to be worth anything, guys. And honestly, in business, those of you who are creating a brand or just a business in general, do you want to be the Walmart of the brand or the Louis Vuitton, right? Like, and guys, it's funny. I own a construction company. I look at it that way with my construction company. Do I want to be the Walmart or the Louis Vuitton? And again, Daniel, you mentioned you get some backsplash. Oh man, or like that. I said backsplash. I'm over here selling construction items. Backslash. It goes back to what they don't know. And it's so funny, this quick analogy with that. There's levels of thinking, guys, and I don't care if I get backslash on this one, because it's the truth. If you put a Walmart employee with a millionaire and they're arguing, I can guarantee you that the millionaire probably has done some great work to get to where he's at. So I'm probably going to believe the millionaire more. I'm going to back his argument up more. Now, again, not everybody's perfect. Not everybody's good people. I get it. But I guarantee you, if you put in that work to get to that $1 million hustle, right? Like, there's something about you that is going to maintain bigger than somebody that just works at Walmart. They're probably just mad at something stupid. They're taking out their traumas on that millionaire. The thing is, guys, anytime that you guys argue and all that, be mindful, because really what you're doing is you're actually speaking from pain if you haven't fixed your trauma. And it goes back to, nowadays with what Daniel's doing, the stuff that I'm doing, people want this external stuff, right? They see all the external stuff, but they don't know how much internal work we did. And it's like, do the internal work first so the external will show. But people don't want to do that, Daniel. People are just lazy and they just don't want to put in the work, man. They want you to hold their hand and and drag them through. And it reminds me, even with my music stuff, when I started my music label, I had so many artists that I signed, and not because they were talented a lot of times, because I believed. But the sad thing is I believed more than they did in their own craft. So they expected this level of success with their first CD, we'll say, at that time. And I had 10 CDs already. And it's like, no, put the work in, get on your hustle, man. You're not going to have what I have, 10 years worth of work with, one day of you deciding you're going to do one song and put her on YouTube and it doesn't do numbers. Like, it just bothers me, man. Patience. You got to put in the hustle, put your head down for 5-10 years, put 10,000 hours in. And I guarantee you that if you do the work for those 10,000 hours without worrying about the noise about anybody else, things are going to come to you. You become a magnet, and it's that simple.
I love it. So as we come to the end of the show, what's a scripture or a quote that you rely on in times of adversity, Billy? What's a scripture or a quote that you rely on in times of adversity?
I have a couple quotes, actually. The main one that it just comes to me right away is that you become what you think about. And this one goes along with that, is reality exists only where the mind creates a focus. And what that means is...
Say that again, reality. Say that one again.
Yes, reality only exists where your mind creates a focus. So what that means, guys, is if you're in a shitty situation right now, it's because you focused on that. Now there's the other side of the spectrum, right? If you're focusing on the good and building and becoming a better person overall, then guess what? You're focusing on that, so you become that. Like, it's that simple. And so stop worrying about all that dumb stuff, the noise, and just focus. Just focus.
How do we get a hold of you? Somebody wants to connect with Billy the Kid, and that's Billy DHAKIDD.com. Billy the Kid. How do we get a hold of you, brother?
Yep, Billy DHAKIDD. Instagram has been great to me, but I am on Facebook as well. But if you go to billythekid.com and leave me your email, I'm actually mailing out free autograph CDs this time. You do have to pay for shipping, though. I'm making you pay something so that way you value it. I'm not going to just fully send you something for free. But yeah, billythekid.com, leave me your email, and I usually just send out... I know I'm going to be releasing your podcast here soon, so whenever I release a podcast, I send it out on my music, and I'm writing a book right now. I got The Power of Being Uncomfortable. You could get a copy on there, autographed. Shame on you if you don't want it autographed. Then you could go to Amazon, and you could go to Target and .com and Walmart and all that.
All right, brother. Awesome, man. What an amazing episode, ladies and gentlemen. Billy the Kid here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. And I'll tell you what, if you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, go to DanielGomezGlobal.com. That's DanielGomezGlobal.com. Do our entrepreneurs assessment. We want to help you out there. And better yet, go to our website, themakingsofamillionairemind.com. That's the makings with an S, themakingsofamillionairemind.com. Get our online course. Our online program is changing lives. We've sold over 1,000 already. I'll tell you, the results are showing up. And get an autographed copy of our book. And better yet, May 26th and 27th here in San Antonio, we're bringing in keynote speaker Brian Covey to our Makings of a Millionaire Mind boot camp. We want to see you here in San Antonio. If you have any questions, send us a message here, and we want to help you out, or call me directly at 210-663-5954. That's 210-663-5954. Don't miss our next Millionaire Mind boot camp. Lives have been changed. I'll tell you what, if you don't change, nothing changes. Once again, thank you to Biddy the Kid for joining us and being an amazing guest. We'll see you next week with another guest on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.